Hi everybody, welcome to the class tonight. Everything looks good on this end. Hi Lisa, hi Mina, hi Rick, hi Vivian, hi Kim, hi Barbara, hi Rhonda, hi Vian Mom, hi Mellow Yellow, hi Cynthia. All right, hi Steve. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here tonight, everybody. I hope you have had a lovely week. Hi there. Fingold? Hello, welcome. Hi Kendale. Hi Monty. We are going to get started here and keep working on our very majestic lion. So over the last couple weeks, we'll kind of do a recap here while people are filing in. We went ahead and jumped into our, oh, Donnie is easier to say, thank you. Awesome. So we really started with our main features, the eyes, got those kind of blocked in, and then we started creating more data around the eyes, getting in the direction of the fur. We've been experimenting with a couple different points. I generally like to use the Walnut Hollow Creative Versa tool and the shading point for most of my work. And I use that for a lot of the upfront stuff. And then we kind of started branching out and working with the coal wood, because I got a coal wood burner, and we were using the small heavy shader tip to put in some of the longer fur, and that was working really well. I told you guys last week that I was going to get some more points coming in, and I did. One that I think has quite a bit of potential is this fellow here. They had it pre-bent, but they bent it way back here, if you can see that. And I found that when I laid the point flat on the wood, it would hit here at that neck. So I tried to rebend it. It has kind of like a little bit of a hook now, but now I can go ahead and place that flat on the wood, and I think it'll give me a nice blend of some softer fur. But last week we really started putting in a lot of those fur strokes with this small heavy shader tip with the coal wood, and you can see, or I can really see, that it's a lot more scratchy and coarse hair than what we put in here. And for me, that's just kind of the way that I hold the point. If I rock the point up and use that upper tip, it's going to be much more scratchy and kind of coarse. And if you drop that point down a little bit more, it'll be softer. So I'm excited to kind of play around with this one as we continue working on the fur. Hi, Desiree. Hi, White Wolf. Hi, Terry. Okay. Thanks, Donnie. We're getting there. I think the fur still has a little ways to go. I like doing a nice mix of both kind of texture and shading to get this where I'd like. But anyway, we're going to keep on going here. Hi, Connie. And then let's see, last week we determined that these shorter coalwood points, nibs, they don't operate, you don't have to have the temperature quite so high. So this was like a 5 or 6 on the dial, and then these longer ones have to be turned up a little bit more. But we're just going to go ahead and jump in here. Another thing that I'm really trying to focus on tonight is get some framework around his face, and then we'll kind of take that darkness and pull it up into these whiskers and kind of make that look the way it's supposed to, where his neck and mane is going to push back, and then his chin and his muzzle will pull forward. And we have to have it nice and dark under here in order to create that little bit of an optical illusion. If we don't get the neck area dark enough, his nose will look kind of flat. So the lighter areas are going to pull forward, darker areas push back. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on that coal wood, and we're going to jump right down in here to under the chin. Hi, Beverly. Okay. So, and if there's any questions as far as what we've already done tonight, or done previously, give me a holler, and we'll just dive in here and have fun. I did go ahead and sand the top of the sheep a little bit while I was waiting to come online. So I know we didn't do that last time, so. All right. There's my cord. And this point that I'm using now is called, I have my little labels, an LE 3/32, and it was polished and bent at 45 degrees from Bearwood Supply Company. So that's the point that I'm using right now. And we'll start it out on a level 6 and see how we are. Hi, Chico. Welcome. Donnie, you didn't notice the sheep? Yeah, he's kind of snuggled up down there. We're get most of that lion in place, and then we'll work on the sheep. Okay. So at a level 6, let's kind of test it out down here in the dark areas. Not hardly making a mark. So go to 7. And for those of you that are just jumping in new, I'm kind of experimenting with some different burners as far as my teaching method, and that's why I'm taking a little bit of time here to fiddle around, because I usually use a different system. But a lot of people have this coal wood, and I'm really liking it. It's it holds its heat very well, and I gotta figure out how to use it. So that is a little bit scratchy there. If I need to zoom in, give me a holler. I'm gonna go maybe a 7.5 in here. That's still pretty warm. All right, I'm gonna go back to a 7 then. Donnie, you have the coal wood detailer. Cool. Yeah, I just got this about a week and a half ago, so I am learning. And I'm starting here kind of in this really dark area because I know that I can blend this out to make it look more natural if I don't get my strokes just right. And if this one doesn't work, I might go back to the other one that we were using last week. And then you'll notice a lot of times I keep my hand right here so that I don't lose my place. I'm wondering about trying to get close to the sheep's fluff. Yeah, I can do that. So I'm definitely going to be using short kind of fur strokes as I get closer to that sheep. But I like this point because it does have more of a tapered point, kind of like the Versatool and the shading point. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So for beginners, if you're new to burning, you might notice that I'm not just drawing a solid line above the sheep. I could come in and just draw a line right there. That'd be a lot quicker and a lot easier. But I want the transition between the sheep and the lion to be more natural. So I'm going to be using a little bit more of the fur strokes. and make that edge more irregular. All right, Cynthia, you just ordered the Coalwood detailer. Cool. Awesome. Vivian, you got the razor tip recently? You almost burned through the wood. Oh, wow. Yeah. Terry, you're, yeah, it did take a long time to get to the Coalwood. A lot of that was kind of financial. I just couldn't make that jump yet, but I'm glad that I did. I also wound up getting some more solid point burners off of Amazon to try and see what might be a good replacement for the Versatool now that Walnut Hollow is out of business. So I got those in yesterday and haven't had a chance to play around with them and see if there's any others that would be good to recommend. Okay, so I'm going to let this cool down a little bit. I think I'm going to switch back to that the small heavy shader tip. I feel like I have maybe a little bit more control with that one. Until then, while that's cooling down, we'll go back to the Versatool here. And I can start sketching in some of the other areas of the fur. And it won't take that long to cool down enough for me to switch it out. Donnie, you didn't know about Walnut Hollow. Yeah, they went out of business earlier this year, unfortunately. I was a partner with them and have loved their product and promoted their products for almost a decade before I became a partner, kind of an affiliate with them. And very sad to see them go out of business. They were great to work with. Who knows, maybe they can come back someday. That would be lovely. Okay. Let's see. Night Owl is asking if the Coalwood doesn't cool fast. It does cool fast, but I haven't got a handle on the tool changing device, and so I just grab the point and manually switch those out. And so I'm just playing it kind of safe so I don't burn my fingertips. But it does cool down quickly. Steve says, one thing that you like about the Coalwood over other wire tip burners is the ease of changing tips. Yeah. Cool. I'm just lightly sketching in some of the fur direction here. We want lots and lots of layers. All right, well, we'll go ahead and try that, Terry. It's like, I just don't want it to go flying. Oh, hey, there you go. That worked pretty well. Let's see. Lisa says your versatile shader tip is very pointy, almost sharp. Any advice on how to round it more? If that's on the Versatool, you're just gonna want a nice sanding pad, and that'll help. When I get the new points with the Versatool, and they are quite pointy, I'll just use one of these sanding pads and take it and kind of round off that sharpness. and it'll smoothen out some of the manufacturing, like the mold that it comes with. They're brass points, so they bend and sand pretty easily. Okay, back to the coal wood on level 6. Let's keep going with this one. Vivian is asking what burner might work better with the curly sheep fur. I'm going to want a point that's quite soft and operates at a nice low temperature, so I'll probably do that one with the Versatool and the shading point. I think I'll have the most control with that setup. Okay. Yeah, this one seems to be a little bit more controllable for me. Ah, Terry, yes, the sheep fur is very similar to poodles. I love what you've got, yeah, going on Mighty Networks. Projects are looking awesome. So, Lisa, you did the wiggle worm technique on your seaweed for your turtle. Cool. And I hope that worked pretty well for you. Trying to kind of vary the fur and get it snaking around a little bit more, so it's not so repetitive. Hi, Zona. And because we cannot burn the white whiskers, we are going to burn the darkness around them. And for those long wispy ones, we're just going to start kind of pretty far down in the shadows and then just continue to work on pulling those dark values up into the chin fluff. His chin is going to look probably a little extra bushy to start with, but we'll kind of shave it down a little bit as we go. There's a lot of lovely dark values in here. It would be easy for me just to block in those dark values, but I want to be able to see the light in the darkness, and I'm going to go ahead and start building up the layers of fur. Hi, Larry. Okay. Okay, we're going to jump over to one of our next darker sections. Every once in a while, I'll take the burner up into the chin whiskers. Well, I know that I think last week we were super cold, down to about 10 degrees, and now we're almost to like mid 70s at 9,000 feet, which is pretty wild. Kendale is asking, is there a certain width you try to keep the white hairs, or you do kind of make them random sizes? Random is better, and if I see that like these guys here are kind of similar, I'll try to split one in half or shave one a little thinner. I do like more random width for those hairs. I can slowly start pulling some more of the fur texture up right in here. And it'll start to fill in a little bit more. Hi, Truth Seeker. Yeah, the weather has definitely been really crazy here of late. The snow is almost gone, which we're about a month to 2 months ahead of schedule, which is pretty scary. I'm afraid we're gonna have wildfires. Hi, Missy. Hello. You're very sweet, but you don't come over there. Everything's hot. I know. You want to go outside. Little Fluffkin. Well, come here if you want to come see me. That's it. Come on. Good girl. Alrighty. This is Missy. Say, huh. Missy says hi. Yeah, I know. Okay, down we go then. Okay, so I'm kind of jumping around looking for some of my darker areas to build up more layers with. Hope you're doing better, Larry. Barbara, it is scary what's going on in Nebraska. They've got quite the wildfire there. Yeah, this long fur, it just takes a while to get everything built up. The longer strokes definitely take more time to burn. Hi, Tracy. Okay, so I think our whiskers are still a little bit long here on the chin, but we can go in and start making some of these areas just a little bit darker. Not sure. Sometimes it looks really dark on the screen. Let's see. White Wolf, the name of the shop that I got the Coalwood burner from is Bearwood Supply Company, and their website is Bearwood, like the animal bear. And if you use a discount code with my first name, you get 5% off pretty much anything in their store, which is pretty cool. Ah, thanks, Mina. Let's see, we have kind of a little bit of a shelf of dark fur under here. So we can sketch that in as well. And then I try to look for big chunks of different value. So I have a little bit of a kind of a wavy V here. White Wolf, you say you're clumsy. You don't know if you should buy yourself one. You might forget to turn it off with all the knobs. Generally, when I walk away, I disconnect the pen from the cable. That way, if I forget to turn it off, I'm like you, I'm not going to burn the house down. So just pull it apart, set it down. Like every time I set it down, I disconnect it. And then that helps me to remember to not leave it on. Okay, so here we have some bigger swoopy chunks. Alrighty, I think I need some more chunks down in here too. Hello, Fernando. Welcome. Night Owl says you turn your power strip off when you walk away. Yes, that's a good thing as well. I've done that often too. And then a lot of times I wind up, you know, turning on all my knobs and buttons and getting everything plugged in, and I forget that my power strip is still off. So that's easy to do. Oh dear. Thanks for being here, Larry. I know you have a different obligation and responsibility during this time. We're glad to have you here whenever we can. Mina, whenever you stand up from your chair, you sing a tiny song that reminds you to turn everything off. That is a really good idea. I do something similar, like whenever I'm coming up to a traffic light, I tap the steering wheel and I tell myself, you know, green light, green light, green light, that it's still a green light, just to make sure that I get like all these cues to make sure that you don't run a red light. I almost ran one red light once in my life, and it was after a very traumatic experience. So I try to always make sure that I'm aware of things like that. So your song is very, very great idea. Cynthia, you turn your power strip off too. Yep. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We've got pets, and I worry about them stepping on the on switch, especially for the razor tip, since it's on the top. And these things heat up so fast, it'd be really dangerous. Oh, come on now, you guys be nice. It's okay, Swiper. What happened to my camera? Well, that was weird. Did you do that, kitty? Okay. Tiny glitch. All right. Yeah, the rainbow colors, that just means that my main camera disconnected for a minute. I'm not sure what that was about, but it was, I don't know. The cat walked under there. Sometimes maybe a static electricity charge from the cat might disrupt that signal briefly. Okay. I need to let the dog out really quick. Give me just 1 minute. We're going to have a brief intermission. Where is... Hold on, you guys. Dog goes out. It's okay. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for the brief intermission there. So many animals. I gotta take care of them. Okay, so I'm liking how I'm getting the jaw structure in place here. I think it's okay. I think I'm going to jump over to the, what am I going to jump to? I want the muzzle to be really soft, and I'm kind of having a hard time getting that with the Coalwood at this time. So I'm going to switch to the Versatool. Terry, yep, absolutely. What would we do without our lovely little critters? Okay. You guys can see pretty well here. Okay. So I'm going to start by putting in some of the darker areas, these little, I call them whisker ports. It's where the whiskers kind of come out of. Again, I'm not just doing a like color in session, I'm putting in those fur strokes with each one. And this, the long fur to me is definitely in the ugly duckling stage, but we're just gonna keep at it here. I'm gonna blend and soften the transition between the mane and the muzzle. And I am not worrying about the whiskers right now. We can scratch those in later. Alright, and then this mouth area here is quite dark, so I can come back in and darken that up a little bit. Thank you, dear. Yeah. And then we'll go ahead and close that pen. So yeah, you can put those whisker ports in a little bit darker to start with, and then we'll expand them out and make them bigger. So they look pretty small on my lion right now, but I will blend them out and make them look bigger soon. Uh-huh. She's right here under my desk. Put the plate down and call Kitty Kitty and try to get her on over there. Yeah, maybe tap it with a spoon. I like all the conversations about the dogs. Come on, come on. That's it. Go get your food. Come on, it's okay. Go, it's over there. Keep going. Oh, zap, I'm sorry. Did we get electricity? She's over here. She's headed your way. She needs some encouragement, though. Thank you. We have a very elderly cat that we're helping. Thank you, dear. Yeah. Come here. Come so the shading point I still really love for creating just the softness of the fur. It definitely takes a lot longer to burn, especially those darker layers and values. But I really still haven't found something that beats the versatile and the shading point for the softness of the fur. But probably I just need to keep practicing and exploring the different points. You got her? Thank you. It's okay. Thanks, hun. All kinds of fun dog stories here. Truth Seeker, you're only 4 months into the pyrography world. You got one of the Amazon blue burners. Okay. But obviously we'll be stepping up when you can. You like the spoon shader and want something to do fine details. Gotcha. I'm not sure that I'm familiar with the Amazon blue burner. There's a lot of them on Amazon right now. It's a lot of new brands are popping up. Spoon shaders are nice because you can get a really soft feel to what you're burning, but it's hard to get those fine details. This is my favorite point that I use for pretty much everything is the shading point with the Versatool. Because I have the ability to do fine lines and subtle shading, black backgrounds, pretty much anything that I want to create, I can create with this one point. But it's probably because I practiced with it a whole bunch, and I'm just comfortable with it and I'm used to it. So finding something with a smaller surface area would be good. Some of the other points that are good are things like this that have a very small tip. This is a writing style tip from Coalwood. Other solid point burners have things called a mini flow point. That's a nice one for small details. You could even use like a chisel tip that comes with a lot of solid point burners, and you can use that upper part to get your details. Let's see, anytime that you are working with a ball point like that, also good for fine details. All right, so here we go. On part of this muzzle, I'm just going to put in some light first strokes. I'm not going to really overshade this area with first strokes, like maybe 2 layers. And then one of the things that I love about wood burning is when you burn the wood, it kind of burnishes the surface, and it makes it to where colored pencil won't stick very well. So if you just lightly burnish some of these hairs, and then when you're done you go back and put in some white colored pencil, it really stands out. And these marks will be much more noticeable later. You are welcome, Truth Seeker. Okay, so this edge right here is a little bit rough. We can pull some more shading strokes up and blend that a little more. And kind of darken it on the bottom. Got cat hair everywhere. Mina, yeah, I do. I love that they come in these tubes as well. The razor tip, I got the pens and they came in the tubes also, and I saved them for a long time and then wound up not using them. But I'm liking these because they're so small, and I'm trying to keep them in their original containers so I don't forget what they are. If I wasn't teaching, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but because I'm teaching, I need to know what points that I'm using. Okay, I'm going to kind of do a little bit more first strokes around those whisker ports, and that will blend them in to their surroundings a bit more. Sophie, come here. Come on. Lay down. That's for the kitty. Lay down. Down. Good girl. That's the kitty's food. Tracy, you keep yours in the original containers too. Awesome. Yeah, it is definitely helpful. I've seen people that do woodworking, they'll create little stands for them, that's pretty cool too. So right now I'm focusing on kind of some of my midtones and my lighter midtones to see where I can add a little bit more detail. And that's one of the biggest challenges I find when wood burning a lighter subject, is training your eye to find values to add. And you may think, it's white, there's nothing to add. But if you just keep looking, a lot of times you'll be able to see more and more once you train your eyes to look for those lighter midtones. It's kind of like when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle and you're looking for just red pieces. They start to stand out everywhere. But if I'm looking at all of the different values in here, it may be hard to see, each one's, but if I just focus on the midtones, or if I just focus on the lighter midtones, I find it a little bit easier to find that data to put in. Okay, so I know you guys have a little bit of an odd angle, but there we go. So another thing to remember is we've talked about how something that's rounded is usually going to be lighter in the middle, and then the edges get a little bit darker. So for these little lip pouches, think of them almost as kind of a marshmallow. They kind of have the shape of a marshmallow seen from the side. So the brightest parts are going to be right in here, and then as the three-dimensional object starts to wrap around, we're going to see shading right here and right there. So I want to make sure that I capture that roundedness by pulling in some values on the outer edges where it wraps around, just like a white marshmallow. Let's see, Terry is asking if they put the sticker on the tube or did I do that? They did that. Yeah, they put the sticker on the tube. This is how they came. Everything was very well packaged, and they've got their nice system on there, which I really love. Vian Mom, your husband made an awesome case that holds the Colwood Super Pro 2, 15 tubes with the tips in them, and 2 additional pens. How cool. Yeah, a picture on Mighty would be awesome. Oh, excuse me guys, there's somebody at the door. Intermission. Okay, I'm back, guys. I'm so sorry. No, I'm still here, Rick. I do apologize. When you live in the middle of nowhere, when somebody knocks on your door, it's oftentimes an emergency. So, tiny emergency. We're all good. I'm back. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. Alrighty. It used to be that I would put a note on the door, you know, live class in progress, but I haven't done that in a while. Okay, back to where we were. Okay, so yeah, that's a more realistic kind of angle of the lion, but you can see how we're starting to develop that poochiness of the lip there. Yeah, me too, Mina. Sometimes we have people that have crashed their car and all kinds of stuff that show up. So it's a little bit of a mechanical issue, and I can't help him with the project, but my husband can. So that is where we're at. And back to where we were. Okay, so we do have a little bit of light source coming from this side, and this little lip pouch is going to be overall darker. So it has a little bit different light on it. The lightest part is going to be right here, and then it's going to kind of get darker as it rolls around there. Yeah. Yeah, Lisa, pretty much. Yeah, if somebody knocks on our door, they're either dropping something off because we helped them with something, or there's a problem. So there was a little bit of a problem. Yeah, I've had people, we're on these big high mountain roads and steep embankments, and people show up in the morning and they're freezing cold and have been walking most of the night from a car crash, and it's crazy. Or there'll be trees down in the road's blocked, nobody can get through, so fire up the chainsaw and go clear out the road. So all good. I didn't have to leave you guys. At least not, you know, but just for a little bit. Okay. But yeah, I love the softer feel of this fur, and I can come back in and I will soften these up as well and make it so it's not so scratchy. And we're just going to continue to sneak the darkness up into those whiskers as we burn. So here, even with just a few layers of the lighter, softer shading, it's definitely toning down these crazy whiskers. Thanks. Yeah, it's a different life where we're at, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah, sometimes we'll have, you know, plans. We got to get XYZ done for the day, and something will happen, and somebody comes up to our door and says, help. So we drop what we were going to do and make sure that we get them taken care of. All right, see, that already is looking much better with just a little bit of soft shading in here. I am not burning each and every tiny hair that is on the reference photo. All I'm gonna do is get the overall feel of what's going on here. And just keep adding those layers, more and more layers. Thanks, Mina, for the reminder to definitely like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video. That always helps the algorithm and gets more people in front of the classes. Vivian, you only get knocks on the door from people selling stuff. Oh, yeah. Fortunately, we don't have to worry about that too much here, but... Okay. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but... All right, next I'm loving these tiny little crazy short fun whiskers right below that lip. And the direction is going to change a lot in a very short amount of time. So it almost has a little bit of a fan type pattern. And I'm going to try to leave some of that unburned wood peeking through for the highlights. Glad that you are enjoying this, Truth Seeker. We are doing well here. Night Owl says, be careful to help strangers, for in doing so you help angels unaware. Oh, that's very good. I like that. And pretty much everybody up here, we know everybody, and it's a good small group of neighbors that generally are the ones that come by looking for help. But that's a good Bible verse, Night Owl. I love it, Rick. Okay, so that's looking better. More layering, obviously. We've got some darker tidbits in here. I can come back and slow my strokes down a little bit and really start focusing on burning some darker areas. But it's all going to be about layering. Some people, you know, they look at that white beard and they think, oh my gosh, it's just white. How do we do that? Start by burning around it. You can see that my lion's beard is much bigger than this one. And that's okay. I can continue to make those dark areas go farther up, or I can leave him with a big bushy beard. In any case, I would rather burn around a white area more cautiously and kind of sneak up on it than jump right in here and then he has like a little, what is it, a goatee? I don't know. Just a little tiny thing. But we can always add more dark values to the light, but it's hard to kind of go the other way around. Okay, then I also see some of these inverted V's, so I can start putting those in as well. That's another kind of a lighter mid-tone that you can start putting in to give the beard some more, you know, interesting elements. So it doesn't look like a painter's brush, just a fan brush. And then a lot of times it gets darker down here. It's like where the chin meets in the middle. Okay, and then another thing about this chin, just like the rounded part here, this is going to have rounded edges as well. Where the fur tucks into the lips here, we can bring some of that darkness inward. And then same thing over here. And then with the lighter areas in the middle and the shading around the edges, it's going to expand and make it look just a little bit more 3D. I'm excited to see your box, Vine Mom. That sounds really cool. Thank you, Nacho Libre. Welcome. We're getting there. Okay, so we can start in on this next one here. Following kind of our same pattern, since this area is in shadow, we can add another layer to those whisker ports and make them darker to begin with. And we definitely have a darker area here. Kind of forgot to burn this area. There we are. Okay, so we can start adding another layer around these whisker ports. And then these here. Can zoom in a little bit more too. Oh, sorry. Earthquake. Well, our lion is coming along pretty well. So we're halfway into the class. I really kind of want to stay with where we're at for tonight. Just thinking about next class, if we want to start working on the lamb. We'll see how far we get, and we can kind of break it up a little bit and maybe really focus more on the lion tonight and get as far as we can, and then maybe work on the lamb. Because I'd like to get quite a bit of this done, of both the majority of the lion and the lamb done by Easter is my plan. Thanks, guys. We're just gonna start throwing in some random light strokes here. Mina, thank you for the reminder that if you're not a member of our paid platform on Mighty Networks, please consider joining. You get all of our past live streams included at the different tier levels, and their accompanying patterns, discounts, monthly challenges, all kinds of fun stuff over on Mighty Networks. So definitely take a look at that. Rick, you forgot to switch your calendar last month. Oh, and you're bummed because you really like that picture. Yeah, I think March is the bee project that we did last year. Let's see. Hi, Francois. Welcome. Bonjour as well. Did this turn down? Nope, I didn't. Okay, good. All right, I'm just going to start trying to build up some more of our values on this shaded side of the lip area. Lisa says, my thought is this what you would do since we're following your thought patterns? How you traced, how you burn, where would you jump to next? Yeah, if I wasn't teaching this project, and if it was just my project, I would probably follow a very similar path to what I'm doing here. And we can zoom out real quick and just kind of have a brief talk about that. For my personal projects, yes, I would follow what we're doing here. Start with the eyes, focus on the face, create the frame around the face, and then start getting in some of that general fur there. Then I would probably switch over and start working on the lamb, because I know I can make the fur work. That'll be fine. It can take a little bit more time to do that longer fur. So yes, I would probably, after tonight's session, after another hour of working on this, I would probably switch and start working on the lamb, just to make sure that those elements all work out, because sometimes lamb, sheep fur can be a little bit tricky. So that's probably what I would do if it was just me. And with you guys here as well, I think that's the plan. Unless you guys really want to see something else. And then get those main things in place and then start building around them. All right. Terry, do I ever find myself sitting and staring at the eyes? I do really love the eyes. The eyes aren't quite finished in my book, but it's a great start, and we can kind of get everything in place and then go back over, if you guys still want to watch the fine-tuning of the details at the very end. But this is generally how I work, and just, you know, always focus with the eyes, then move out from there. Work on the nose, main features, keep expanding, and then once everything's in place, go back with a fine-tooth comb and readjust all the values. You can't really make anything lighter, but we can certainly darken up areas that need it. Thanks, guys. Wonderful. Cool. Terry, you like the fine-tuning? I do too. Sometimes it can be definitely where you get into that flow state, and I find it, I don't know, sometimes a little bit more difficult to like enunciate what I'm doing here, because it just becomes more of a feeling. But you kind of compare different values and see which ones need to be darker or lighter, and go from there. Vine Mom, you like the tip on the transition from the lion to the lamb not being just a solid outline. Yeah. I've done transitions like that before, of just a solid outline, and wasn't very happy with my results. And so I kind of started changing that up a little bit, to make sure that we have, if it's a fuzzy-headed little lamb, I want to capture that. And then if you guys remember, when we were transferring on the lamb, I went kind of like on the very outer edges of the fluff, so that I can soften this edge even a little bit more and make it kind of fuzzy, like the light is shining through the fluff. So anytime you have a white subject, stay away from it as long as you can until the very end of your kind of fine-tuning and adjustments. There we go. All right, just throwing in some direction of the fur. And then this area in here needs to be a fair bit darker. I feel like his, maybe it's just when I look at the camera. That's a little bit better. When I look on the screen, this cheek doesn't, this lip area doesn't look very rounded. Mina, you love the fine tuning also. Awesome. Yeah, I really enjoy that as well. Okay, so I'm kind of jumping around here, but I really want to get this part of the face put in there, so let's unfold that. Okay. This project would look pretty cool with some colored pencils on the eyes. I think that would be very striking. That's got to be one of my all-time favorite things to woodburn are big cat eyes. They're so much like human eyes. And adding a spot of color is just so fun. And that's where it's very important not to overburn the eyes now, if you plan on adding colors, because later on the color just won't adhere very well if you burn it too much. Where am I? I'm trying to burn this section here like twice. Okay. Alright, so let's switch over to the coal wood for a little bit and start putting in some more of this fur. Because that's where the Versatool, I really think, kind of reaches some of its limits. Is just when you get to the longer fur. Terry, you love just one color on a piece, whether it's graphite, charcoal, or burned. You're thinking of lightly coloring your frog. Any thoughts? Aw, that frog is super cute. That would be fun, to add a little bit of color to your frog. And it could be, you know, you could either add color to the frog, or you could just color the water, or a splash of the lily pads, just a little spot of green there. If you are going for a focal point, though, I would probably recommend just adding a touch of shading to color to the frog. We're getting there on blocking in most of the lion's face, which is very good. Kind of drives me crazy to see some of those unfinished little areas. Kendale, yeah, it is crazy how the fur is kind of going crazy in here. I do have quite a bit of shadow, and I think some of it might be, you know, the way his head is turned. We get like folds of skin, and that changes the way that the fur goes. Like if you look at a dog that's really chubby and has those rolls, their fur is going every which way. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, we're getting there on Mr. Lion. He's coming together. And I hope that you guys can see, you know, kind of my plan as far as making sure that we add darkness around the face, and then this whole area here, the muzzle and the nose, is going to pull forward. We definitely have some more tweaking of values to do later on, but without this darkness around the face, this whole thing would be flat. A lot of times that you really see that is with dog or wolf portraits. They have such an elongated nose that if you don't burn kind of their neck and chest area dark enough, the nose looks like it's really short and stubby. So when it comes to three-dimensional realistic wood burnings of animals, that muzzle, it's so important to keep that lighter. And I lost my place. Here we are. Way off in no man's land there, but okay. So this area in here is in shadow. I can go ahead and put in a little bit more shading in there. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks Connie, thanks Terry. We are just cruising along here on this lovely fellow. I'm still trying to figure out the blend between texture and shading with this new point. And I'm was a bit rusty to start off with, but I think we're getting it a little bit better now. And lots of layers. Lots and lots of layers for fur. Okay. So let's take a step back and see where we're at and where we want to go next. This is also a big part of how I wood burn, is taking steps back and get kind of a bird's eye view of where you're at. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in like the tiny minutia of each project, and every once in a while it helps to physically get away from your project, put some space between you and it and see, oh my gosh, you know, I completely duplicated this section like I was doing there. I was going to make a duplicate section of that weird fold. And then this allows you a little bit of time to plan ahead what we want to do next. I know I said the rest of this evening is going to be focused on the lion, and I think that that is good, and that's what I still want to do. I'm loving these chunks in here. This lion might be a little bit more soft and fluffy than what I'm going to make, but that's okay. If I want to add more chunks of fur in there, you certainly can. If you do lots of chunky fur, there's a good chance it's going to look maybe, you know, kind of an older lion, or maybe matted. Wet fur clumps together quite a bit as well. So anyway, I'll try to find a nice balance between interesting chunks and soft fluff, and we'll see what we can do with that. Okay. I think we're going to jump into here next. Looking at the reference photo, just like before I burn the muzzle, I want that dark area in there. Sometimes before I burn this light fur here, I'll kind of figure out where that dark zone is and lay that in there. So I can do some dark work in there pretty quick, and then we'll find some bits and pieces in here for those nice chunks of long lion's mane. And that's my plan. So we'll zoom in a little bit more and we'll refocus. Okay, here we go. All right, back to the lovely small heavy shader tip that I've been working with tonight. Small heavy shader tip. Okay, so I'm not going to put in just a solid line to delineate the light and the dark mane. I'm still going to go back to our sketching phase. And that's pretty light, even for a wire tip burner. And that's okay, because once we get into this light area here, we want to keep that, our shading, nice and flexible. Okay, so I turned it up. Now we're at a level 7, and I'm moving the burner quite quickly in here, and I'm going to go a little outside of that area that I just put in and start blocking in our darker area. Then we can start sketching in a little bit of that crazy hair structure that's in the shadows. Very ugly duckling stage on this one for sure. But just stay outside of your fur for now, and then we can always sneak in on it later. Okay. I'm going to go back to a level 6 and start looking for chunks of fur. That's plenty dark at a level 6. Okay, so here's a nice kind of a fun shaped chunk. And then try to mix up your chunks as far as bigger ones and smaller ones as well. Pretty coarse, pretty scratchy right now. Pretty scruffy, scratchy. Alright, so we got all kinds of different chunks in there. And then we can sporadically put in a few darker areas here and there. So I do have to comment a little bit on a comment that was made here a little bit ago regarding the Bible verses. And I know we generally don't talk much about politics or religion here on this channel because it's focused around art. And having said that, I have no problem hearing Bible verses here on the channel. I find that to be quite lovely, especially since we are working on a fairly symbolic Easter project at this time. And so just, you know, it's been on my mind a little bit since that comment came out, and just want you guys to know that again, we don't openly discuss a whole lot of religion and politics because it's dividing, and I don't care for that division. But I am a Christian Catholic, and I am loving to see Bible verses on here if people want to put that in there. If people don't like that, you know, you're welcome to, you know, find a different channel or anything else, or just ignore that and move on to the next comment. We have always been very openly friendly and talkative here on the group, sharing all kinds of different, wonderful personal things, our love for pets, what we do over the weekend, the week, and stuff like that. So just want to clarify for everybody, especially my lovely loyal listeners, that that this is important to me, and this is why I chose this project. Is specifically for the Easter season of the lion and the lamb. So there we go. So that's my little bit on that, and I am excited to hear more wood burning questions, and we'll see how this all turns out with our project. Okay, so we're getting there. I'm liking these different chunks in here. I think that that's great. Thanks so much. Yeah, we're good, guys. Everybody, we're good. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's comments there, and we're good. The main point of this channel is to educate and uplift and encourage artists and friends. So, okay, anybody that has any questions, let me know as we go through this. I'm still just really kind of looking for these bigger sections here. Doing pretty well. Okay, and it's really easy to get lost in some of these areas because it is so dark. Not so dark, it's just very busy. So we'll try to find our darkest areas, and I'm still kind of going back and forth with the blend between the texture and the shading. And I'm getting a little bit better with this point here as well. Awesome, guys. Yeah. All good. We're all good. Hi, Missy Mullen. What kind of printer do you use to get large images? That's a great question. I have, what is it? I think it is, it's way up here. It's a Canon. I think it prints up to 11 by 14, 11 by 17. But if I have a project that's really large, I'll just put it in the printer at the same, like in a Photoshop document, and print out multiple pages and then tape it together. It's not the best, but it works, because there's definitely times where I've had projects much larger than 11 by 17, and then I have to just carefully line them up and tape them together and then use that to transfer on. Thank you. Are you letting in the dog?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so let's start building up a little bit more of this darkness over here. Mina is asking, when you're working on fur, do you find yourself preferring the Coalwood now or the Versatool? I would say it absolutely depends on whether I'm doing the darker areas or the lighter areas. To start blocking in these darker areas, I'm really appreciating the Coalwood because it's faster. I like the Versatool for smoothing out and softening, because like one area that's driving me crazy right now, a couple areas, are this area in here and then up at the top where it seems just so scratchy and not fluffy. But I know that if I do the entire project with the Versatool, these darker areas can take much, much longer. I have better control with the Versatool because I'm used to it. But the dark areas are really handy to put in faster with the coal wood, and then I can always blend them and soften them with the Versatool. You are welcome, Missy Mullen. Welcome. 5 Elements is asking, do you like the razor point or the coal wood? I've had the razor tip for many years and always kind of struggled with the heat consistency of it. And I generally prefer the solid point burner, the Versatool, but compared to the razor tip and the coal wood, I'm liking the coal wood better because it seems to me like the heat is regulated a little bit more evenly. And then they do have this nifty adapter, coal wood does, so that you can run your razor tip pens off of the coal wood. So if you have razor tip pens that you really love, but if you're like me and you're a bit frustrated with the inconsistency of the heat, then you can use your razor tip pens on the coal wood, which is pretty cool. Okay. White Wolf is saying that if you go to Walmart, they can print larger stuff for you. Well, that's cool. That's good to know. Yeah, like maybe a copier store could print larger projects for you if you don't have a big enough printer. You're welcome, Mina. You are welcome. And I know that we're gonna eventually burn a black background around this, and I am just starting to block that in with a lot of wispy hairs because that darkness can come in towards the light, and that's just fine. What I don't want to see, personally me, that drives me crazy with my art, is if I have an animal with fur and I have a black background and my fur is kind of like this, and I used to do this, block in the fur and try to get every little hair, you know, and over here's my animal, and then block in the black background like this, and it was always so stiff. It wasn't very soft and fluffy. It wasn't very natural. So when I first started, I would outline like each hair and have a very stark contrast. And so over the course of my time burning, I tried to really loosen up and soften the edges much more, especially when trying to tie in with a black background. And I hope that that makes sense. Lisa, yeah, you're doing that church logo that's 4 feet. Wow. They couldn't print it big enough? Oh no. So, yeah. Wow. There are some other, I think, online printers that can do custom stuff like that, but it's probably going to be kind of expensive, I would imagine, unfortunately. Ugly duckling stage. Definitely. And he is super fluffy right now because we can always burn in a little bit more. But we're off to a good start. I think I really need to start focusing on pushing these darks a little more, and sometimes I can just pick chunks and go from there. Vivian is asking about an EcoTank printer. That's cool. I have not heard about an EcoPrint tank. That's not right. EcoTank printer. Yeah, Lisa. Yeah, blueprint paper. Those are very big. That should be big enough for a 4-foot project. Lisa, you have an Eco Tank printer and you love it. Cool. Larry is asking, are you saying that your fur will be softer and lighter when you're going to lay in a black background next to it? Either way, how do I say this? If I'm not going to add a black background, I'll just carry the wispiness out like this, and in that case you want to be careful not to get your subject too fat or poofy. But because I'm going to make a black background, I'm trying to give myself plenty of space here to work with so that when I do start pulling this black background in, I can selectively add chunks of fur and make them to where they're a little bit softer and a little bit more shaded maybe. They're not going to just be like white hair versus black background kind of a thing. They'll be a little bit more soft and blended. Shading a black background around fur is, I think, one of the most difficult things to do with wood burning. It's way up there on one of the most difficult subjects. And finding a good way to do that definitely takes practice and experimenting with different ways to try that. I just find that if I stay away from the fur as long as possible and then slowly pull in that black background, that tends to work better for me. It doesn't look like the animal has been kind of copy and pasted into the black background. I'm trying to make it look a bit more natural. Okay, Terry is asking, what if you burn the black background first? Could that be done? Absolutely, and that's one of the things that I used to do first, is I would put in the black background first. And that's, I think, kind of where I started getting myself into trouble with the way I wanted it to turn out. I was being too literal with the hairs by burning the black background first. If you burn a black background around a wildlife subject, from my experience, I would definitely burn the animal first and the black background second. Because I've done it both ways, and being cautious and then enclosing the animal slowly with the black background seems to be the maybe more time-consuming route, but I like how it turns out. You're fine, Lisa. I know my name over text to speech usually doesn't turn out very well. I get Mimosa a lot, which is kind of different. All good. But yeah, absolutely, Lisa. I will take projects and just make sure that they're the same scale and print everything out on little pieces of paper and tape them together. And that's how I deal with those really large projects. Okay, and I get in a habit of kind of doing the same repetitive fur stroke. So you can come in and start doing some swoops and just switch that up a little bit. Do some more jaggedy hairs. And you can always add those in later to break up the monotony of the hand position here. So Terry, your printer prints too dark. But it does fine on photo paper. You like the ink savings, but you wish it printed better quality. There are some settings. I know that my printer has a medium quality, and then a draft quality, and then a high quality. And the high quality tends to use more ink for sure. If your printer is printing too dark, and if you have like a photo editing program, if you go in there and you can adjust the levels before you print it and take all of your midtones and take them more towards the lighter scale, you can kind of tweak those a little bit before you print them out. I've had printers that print way too dark, and I've had to do that as well to compensate for that over darkening of the printing. And Terry, another thing with your printer printing too dark, when you tell it to print, are you telling it to do standard paper or photo paper? Because I've made that mistake of telling it to print on normal. I wanted it to print on normal paper, but it was set to photo paper and it was a little bit more oversaturated. Yeah, Vivian, that's one thing that I'm thinking too. Oh gosh. Okay. And it's standard paper. Gotcha. Okay. Sometimes they have a lot of lovely videos on YouTube that can help you understand, you know, why your printer's misbehaving in that way. So he looks like super fluffed over here because I'm staying away from that outer edge, but we can start pulling that in a little bit. That's a good point, Vivian. Yeah, you can call and contact Epsom support, and they might be able to help you with that. Because a lot of times the printer settings, sometimes they just go automatic. Some of the newer, smarter printers drive me crazy because they do like an auto adjust. They think that, oh, you want XYZ with your project, and they print it out. I'm like, that's not what it looked like on the screen. And you have to sometimes turn off the auto adjust thing too. Lisa, he's been to the salon. He's very floofy. Absolutely. That's a good point, White Wolf. Your printer has a document or a picture option. Yeah, that's what I've seen as well. Sometimes it's the difference between the standard paper and the printer paper. And then some printers have built-in quality sections as well. All right, I'm switching back to the shading point real quick, and I'm going to kind of try to soften this area up a little bit. And just imagine that all of this in here is probably going to be enveloped by that black background. So just look right here. And he's, we're getting there on this fella. And we definitely have a little bit more of a shadow up here. White Wolf is asking, do you ever play around with the contrast and light on your photos on the computer? That is a great way, I think, to kind of pre-adjust projects. Sometimes reference photos can be too dark and you lose all that information in the shadows and it becomes like a mysterious dark blob. if you can't see into those shadows, sometimes I will print out a couple different reference photos. One is maybe a little bit blown out and pushing the lights a little higher. That way I can see into the shadows and see those details in the shadows. And then for the finished piece, I want to take it the other way and maybe make it look a little bit darker so then I can see the details in the lights. And then as an artist, you can kind of pick and choose, okay, how much information in the darks do I want? How much light information do I want in the lights? And then how do we blend it all together in a way that, you know, makes us happy as an artist? And that's a great way to kind of play around with those values. Truth Seeker, all you need is the Coalwood and the adapter. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I just got the little adapter. It's kind of hard to see with my black gloves, but it allows you absolutely to use the razor tip pens with the Coalwood. And I kind of experimented with that a little bit before the class. That package just came in today, and I think that the heat is more consistent with the Coalwood, even with the razor tip pens. So kind of, it's neat to play around and see how they all work together. Let's see. You're welcome, Terry. I hope that that works out for you with your printer. Wow, Terry, you print 5 out. Cool. A regular, a dark, a light, a lighter, and an outline. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so you can see as I'm starting from the top down with the Versatool, down here we've got so much beautiful texture, but we're lacking a little bit of the shading. So now I'm going in with the shading point and just softening things up a little bit. I don't have to soften everything. Like there's this beautiful section right in here where it's nice and light. I can go around that and keep that in place. I don't want to shade everything equally, but I want to soften some of the texture a little bit. Okay, Terry, you had Photoshop Elements and now you have GIMP. That's a new one. You found Affinity is free. Okay, cool. Yeah. And again, it could be, Terry, it could be your printer settings as well. But then again, if you were doing fine with Elements, maybe it is the program. Sometimes when a certain program talks to your printer, the program might have some preset things that can affect how your image prints. Missy Mullen is asking, has anybody tried the AI in Google Photos to print an image to Woodburn? Huh, I've not. You tried it and you thought it was pretty cool? That's nice. Yeah, I've not tried that one yet. So I'm softening a little bit of the transition here as well. Five Elements, you have used the Google Photo AI thing. Cool. I'll have to look into that. Wow, guys, the time has flown by tonight. We've got about 4 minutes left here of the class. So let me know if you have any questions next week. Yeah. I'll be here next week. I know I'm planning a black background workshop, but that is still in the works. I don't have a date for that yet. The first Friday of each month we do a monthly challenge, and that will be not this week, but next week, you know, the following week. And make sure that you are subscribed so that when I set up a live stream, you'll get a little notification there, and then you'll know what we're going to be working on. So, and the next session on this, we will jump down in here and we'll start working on some of that really difficult lamb texture. Let me zoom out here a little bit. Yeah, I'm liking what we have going on here. Instead of just, you know, filling in and repeating this next week, I think I want to change it up a little bit. And we'll start down here. I will probably have to finish up a little bit of the mane above the lamb in order to create that space that we need in the project. But we'll hit this with a sanding pad, knock those graphite lines down, and then really focus on the lamb on next Friday. And we should be able to get the little fella done pretty well. Looking at your reference photo, key areas that we want to work on are establishing our dark outline around here. Again, it's going to be nice and soft and fuzzy edged. And then that gives kind of like a frame for creating a light subject. And we'll put in the shadow, and yeah, it'll be fun. And then after that, I'll just start jumping into some of our darker sections, because that's really where I think the framework is those darker sections. And then that gives you room to create the lights. So, right, let's see. White Wolf, you can't wait to see the workshop to see how the white hair is created in the black background. Yeah, that's going to be a fun challenge. Yep, so the black backgrounds, I'm going to really try to focus on lots of different points and different styles on how to create a nice, consistent black background with that. And then, yeah, tying in here to a black background is lots of a challenge too. Okay, there we go. That's more how he looks. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate everybody being here, and thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next weekend. Next Friday, we'll be here same time. And what is the date? 27th, yeah. So I'll see you on the 27th. Thanks again, and